that letter of Sandra Good that was like 97 pages long, and she was a dance troupe came to the prison, and it sounded like that she was on a summer camp writing back to Manson at prison. Yeah, I was looking at the rest of that. I haven't forgotten about that. I just got bored with reading it after a while. But the reason that I read this stuff is because honestly, I don't believe this. I don't believe the story of Helter Skelter. I just don't. I believe portions of it, like I believe portions of every story. There's pieces of every story that I believe. I believe every book, just pieces of them. And nobody's ever really came to the part that I actually believe, that Manson had absolutely nothing to do with going and murdering those people. It was these girls that did. They came up with the idea of, let's go kill to get Bobby out of jail. Manson was off trying to be a rock and roll star like they wanted him to be. He was down San Diego. They were planning this stuff. And they were planning on what to do, and on who to get, and on why to get them. But nobody ever bothers with listening to any of that stuff. They always go right to, Manson made them do it. And Manson didn't make them do it. These girls made them do it. These girls are the ones that like Bobby so much. You know, let's look at the girls. Catherine Sher. Didn't she do a movie with Bobby? Yeah, she was in Ramrodder with Bobby. Wasn't Catherine Sher also somebody by the name of Charity Shane? Ain't it, babe? Ain't it, babe? Yeah, that's shit there, where she was trying to get famous well before Manson ever even came around into the story. She was up there trying to be famous. She was trying to be a famous singing star and a famous movie star, actually, with Ramrodder, or softcore porn star. But both her and Bobby were there together. They knew each other well before Manson. Then, Bobby also, he was involved with rock and roll throughout that canyon that they talk about is so famous for Manson trying to go there and infiltrate. Well, Bobby was already there. He was making movies there too. He was already part of a band there. What was the guy's name? I can't think of his name, but the band was called Love. It eventually turned into Love after Bobby was out of it. But he was also in that band with all those people, and the film was called Mondo Hollywood. Bobby was in that too. He was posing in that, and like, this is what it's like to be part of the Canyons. Yeah, I think they set Manson up. I think all of it was a setup for Manson. I think these people went along with it, and they also paid Manson back. That's why they all went back to prison. That's why Sandra Good went to prison for a ridiculous reason. That's why Lynette Fromme went to prison for a dumb reason. They were all like, you know how Manson says, you owe me one. Well, they all owed him one now that he was in prison for them. So they all did ridiculous stuff. So I go through all their letters trying to get little pieces and bits and stuff and, you know, things like that out of the letters, because Manson really had nothing to do with this. What the hell would he want that guy murdered for? Even if he thought Terry Melcher, what would he want him murdered for? He wouldn't. There was no reason for that. Manson wasn't that kind of a guy. But then again, Manson also, he would do things for, you know, other people who were pressuring him. And he talks a lot about biker groups pressuring him, about the LaBianca family. So man, there's got to be something somewhere about how these bikers wanted that guy probably gone. And it had nothing to do with Manson. He was driving around looking for somebody in Bugliosi's book, but they ended up right where it was familiar to the Manson family already anyway in the first place. And Howard Scher, did he have anything to do with it? They all got away. All these people got away scot-free. And they all were involved in crimes. As you listen to them talk, we can hear them all talking about the crimes that they were involved in, committed, and none of them were, like from the very start. Roman comes out and he's crying. He's like, oh, Sharon, she didn't do drugs. And then we listen to the polygraph test and he's like, yeah, me and Sharon, we did like 50 acid trips together. You cannot believe nothing that you hear in this whole thing. So that's why we read the letters. That's why I've collected crap over the years. I collected crap because it was actually worth money. You know, it was worth money. I'm not gonna lie to you, it was worth money. Manson was worth money and nobody could get him. And I'm like, hey dude, there's a lot of people selling you out here. I'll go half with you if you just, you know. And that's how I got started in it. And I'd help him with all kinds of stuff, and he was surprised that I was even helping him because most people would rip him off. Most people say, hey, I'll give you some money, and they never did. And then when you did give him back the money, he was like, wow, what's this? It's like Christmas. Because people are a bunch of phonies. They're a bunch of sellouts. They're all willing to throw this guy who was Manson. They treat him like he's this genius guy, but actually, he isn't that genius. He was a redneck. He was a redneck, and he was a redneck genius. And there is genius to that. People don't understand it, and they kind of use it. It's kind of like using a weakness or a kindness as a weakness, you know? And it's not really a weakness, it's a strongness. And Manson really didn't care about going back to prison. He told you that from the very beginning too. It's like he didn't even want out of prison. He liked it better in prison than he liked it out here in society. So it's like, he tells, and then he goes along with the story himself, and he starts telling the story like you want to hear it. And he'll keep saying, oh no, I had nothing to do with the murders, but he'll act like that he's this killer. You know, he goes along with the show. Everybody has been bamboozled in this whole thing from the beginning. Bugliosi started telling stories, and then Manson's like, okay, I'm going to go along with the story. Whatever he tells. You know, if Manson really wanted to become famous right there, he's like, okay, I'll become really famous here because he's telling a really good story, and I'm going to go along with it. Ba-boom! I am Manson. Ha! If I started killing people, there'd be none of you left. You know, all that. This is part of Backporch Ranch. This is what I was doing actually, rather than reading her letters. And let me let you look at that for a minute. You know, because right now I'm kind of like, I don't know what to do with this crap. I got so much of it. I want to make little pieces for everybody to have if you want it. You know, that's what part of being a member is. You really like something a lot. You don't know where to even get in touch with somebody that likes the same thing as you. Welcome to the Backporch. So the other day I had this box and I was telling you what I was thinking about doing with it. I was thinking about staining it, and I've already stained it. And putting latches on it so you can close it and open it. And Backporch Ranch. And then what I was going to put on the inside, I kind of changed my mind to what I was going to put on the inside. I didn't use the pipe. I might one day. I don't know. I've only made 3 of these anyway. So, but on the inside, I put a piece of the roofing material here. And of course, I clear coated this so it's not all rusty. And it looks more clean. And a piece of wood, and it's clear coated too as well. You can still get a splinter from it, so don't run your finger across it like that. Well, you can anyway because you don't have it, but if you ever do one day, because I have 3 of them, you can buy one if you want it. Engraved plaque, pieces of a rock on the outside, with a certificate, like I said, on the bottom. And you could almost take the clasp, put a nail in the wall, and hang it up on the wall. And have your own mini Backporch Ranch museum. The last place that the Manson family ever existed on the earth outside of prison. And that's how big it is. I think it's pretty cool. I actually want to keep it now. Like I said, I only made 3 of them, and that's the kind of stuff I'm doing with that stuff, you know? I cut it from that. So if you want it, only members know about this stuff, you know? Nobody else watching, nobody else that's not watching, yeah, that's how it goes. Because only members watch anyway. And membership is a scam anyway, you know? They want you to be members of everything nowadays, so they can just take it away from you. So if you pay the membership for this, you get to keep it. It's yours forever. You can show people when they come to your house, like, hey man, I got a little Manson museum here, you want to check it out? Yeah, That's why I don't like memberships. I like owning the stuff and touching it. And if you want a piece of it, you're a member. If you don't, you're still a member. All you gotta do is tune in. So yeah, instead of reading something, I was making something and packaging it up so I can throw it on the shelf and move on to something else, make something else. You like making things? I like making things. This is like I guess I'm like the Martha Stewart of the Manson family, I guess. But all the Manson family like making stuff, you know? They all like that quilt over there. I like collecting stuff and I like making stuff. So I make stuff that you can collect, I guess. And I package it up. And then I throw it on the shelf and wait for somebody to buy it. And if nobody buys it, it just sits there on the shelf. But today, I'm like, it's almost like I feel like maybe an elf from the North Pole on how they used to make stuff, you know, that story about the elves, how they used to sit in the North Pole and make stuff, and little kids would get it for Christmas. And you'd be like, oh wow, I really wanted a little part of the Barker Ranch. And I see I'm packaging them up so they all look the same, and then I throw them on the shelf. And I wait for you to go on the website and buy them. Well, this was part of the roof that right there you can see where I cut them out of. Another one I cut out of there. Try to cut it so that it has the least amount of waste. And as you can see, I just cut the end off. And I was using, you get more of the, inside that box there's more wood than this. But you get a piece of the Barker Ranch too. And then that's what the rock looks like that I was using for the pieces on the inside. But I want to show you some cool stuff that I got over here that I got from, yesterday I got I didn't notice until today. There was a message on my phone from my friend Stoner Van Houten, or Bruce Fox, however you know him. And he asked me in the message, which I didn't see until just a few minutes ago, so it's too late. But he asked me, I swear, I don't carry a phone around. I found my phone in the car. I left it there from when I went to the store. So I didn't even miss it from the time that I went. And the only reason I take it to the store is in case I get a flat tire, then I can call AAA. Or when I get to the store, sometimes they have coupons that they don't allow me to take advantage of unless I have a phone, which I think is stupid too. So I take the phone, click the coupon, and then forget the phone. And I gotta watch I don't forget it. Anyway, he left me a message and he was saying he was on YouTube for the last 14 years and he wanted me to come on and talk with him about how I met him. And so I want to show you some stuff that over the years that Stoner's given me. Because he has been, I met him at Spahn Ranch. One day he, just like everybody else, is like, messaged me and says, hey, can I meet you at Spahn Ranch? And I said, sure, come on over to Spahn Ranch. So, to make a real long story short, he met me once at Spahn Ranch, then he met me twice, then he met me 3 times, and I finally took him on to a show with me and Danny from the House of Pain, and then I took him on another show with me and Danny in the House of Pain while we were there, down in that studio in Hollywood. I told him, because he looked like he was wandering around where he didn't really have any kind of meaning or didn't know what to do. I had no idea the dude was just out of prison. He didn't tell me that. If he would have, it wouldn't have mattered anyway. I don't care. Who cares? But anyway, he was wandering around and he'd go to Spahn Ranch every day, so I told him, dude, why don't you just make up a show and make up a character and make up, you know, every day you could go on YouTube and do it. And he's like, oh, I don't know, nobody's going to watch. Yeah, and I'm basically the one that influenced him. I can remember down there, he was sitting on the couch and I was like, dude, you can do this, you can do this. And he did it. I had nothing to do with it, just a little bit of influence. Sometimes that's all people need in life, is just a little nudge, you know, like, yeah, you can do this. And I don't care what anybody says about him. You know, other people have come around and not as many people has lasted as long. His ego got in the way a little bit sometimes and still does, you know. The alcohol gets in the way. So everybody's got problems though. You're going to point out all his problems, I can point out all your problems, and you can point out all my problems, and it's just a never-ending circle of problems. So anyway, let me show you some of the stuff, because he's been going to Spahn Ranch for probably 20 years now, I guess, ever since he got out of prison. And he rung me up because that was about the first time he started coming there. He probably seen me in my videos, and because I was going over there with a couple people, Corey and Josh, and they would come around, and I'd go over there, and we'd wander around, we'd find stuff, and he met up with us one day. So, you know, he's been going there all this time, and he's been digging. He dug underneath the George's house. That's some of the stuff I'm going to show you that he dug out of underneath the George's house. He got, like, where Manson's rock used to be, before the church ever messed it up, it was a rock with a tree. It was really a Western looking thing, because it had like a spool of barbed wire around it, a big spool of it, and he got some of that. There's nothing left down there anymore. It's all gone. Everybody's picked it and took it, and it's all gone. But Stoner was there 15 years ago, kicking it, you know. So I'm going to show you some of that stuff, and that's pretty much how I met Stoner. And again, I'm probably his biggest fan, because everybody that says, oh, I like Stoner, they've all given up, just like Manson from the very beginning, you know. I have a pattern that I don't really give up on people that other people call as, you know, insufficient. It's just me. Let's look at some of this stuff. If you don't know who Stoner Van Houten is, this is him right here. And we were in this show together called Dark Tourist on Netflix. And so was Scott Michaels, by the way. If you've never seen it, check it out. It's only like 15 minutes long. At least the part we were in. It's like a series that goes on forever, but the part we were in is like 15 minutes. I don't actually know what this is, but Stoner found it over there and gave it to me. And as you can see, it's a little red medallion looking thing. And what it looked like is, it looked like, you know, sort of like the pieces that would go in the saddle. This is George, by the way. See George up. This is a newspaper clipping, so it's really hard to see. But that's George. Those are his horses. And he was doing a parade. George Spahn of Spahn Ranch. And what it just looked like one of the pieces to one of, you know, the saddles to a horse. Because I found a lot of pieces of saddle over there. And George had a huge saddle collection that got burned up. So, you know, or one of those things that hangs down where you're, you know, like, just look like that. It might not be that, but anyway, it's something from George Spahn's house. The Stoner gave me. We have different pieces of wood from Spahn. Obviously, you can see the fire damage on that thing. And another piece that was with the fire damage, and sort of the color of the paint that might have been on. And there's another one with another color of the paint that might have been on the bigger piece. And another. So we got a lot of wood from Spahn too. This here piece I found in a tree, and it has to do with Stoner too. And like I said, it was in a tree, and it says, when you see the children with the X's on their heads, don't dare to look them, 'cause soon you will be dead. Stoner. Free Leslie Van Houten. 3/26, 2013. So that was at least 12 years ago. I guess that's his, I don't know what that is. His little brand. But anyway, I seen that hanging in a tree, and I was like, what? Stoner's trying to scare people. Or Stoner thinks he's still in the Manson family. Like, took it and put the Manson family on it. Those are really cool. There's like slugs they found buried, and they haven't been shot. It's just, and the other portion of the shell probably exploded in the fire. And these are those parts. This one, when the fire, it just got so hot that they exploded. And then those pieces, those different pieces of the shell here. It's pretty cool how they exploded like that. But these are from the George Spahn collection of ammunition, which I think is pretty darn cool. And pieces that Stoner found. This is really cool. Stoner found money over there, and it's welded together from the fire. All one piece. Manson's nickels. He rolls the nickels. I don't know if they're Manson's nickels, but they were George Spahn's. These actually probably were George Spahn's because they were right underneath his house, and they're 4 foot deep. And when the fire happened, all they did was just buried everything. Didn't even haul nothing away. They just buried it. So if it survived like these nickels. Or that looks like a penny or a quarter. These are all in the worst shape. He gave me he gave me a few of them that were in a little better condition. I'll show you them in a minute. Those are some of the coins from Spahn. And they all got really old dates on them too. When you can read the dates, I can't particularly see the date on that nickel right there, but I can show you some other coins here. See, some of the coins were in better shape with a little bit of damage on them. So yeah, Stoner got these. He found money. He actually found money at Spahn Ranch. Some of them I packaged up, because he paid for these things, you know. He didn't go do that stuff for his health. I eventually bought them off of him. And I'll give you a chance to buy one if you want. You can wait for it to come on the website whenever it does. I haven't put it there yet, but I got them in packages. At least I got them in packages. There you go. Yeah, this one's 1944. Wow. I got the dates written on the back. 1968. 1964. 1918. I also found these over there. That one says Peter's Ideal, number 16, which is probably 16 gauge. Innocence says Remington, 12 gauge. And I have no idea what that is. But they all probably melted and exploded in that fire. Because that pin's down, so that might have been shot. That pin's down too, so that might have been shot too. But from the cowboy movies at the Spahn Ranch, maybe the Lone Ranger shot it, who knows. I'm just kidding. Or give me a whole firearms collection. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pieces. These I'm keeping. There's things that, you know, I keep, and this is one of the things I'm keeping. It's only really the extra stuff that I have, because I'm also keeping these coins. So we got a Stoner collection of what he gave me, which makes a really nice collection just in its own, you know. And he gave me 2 of them. And if George Spahn was in the military, these were probably part of his medals. If he wasn't,
They might have been from somebody else, or his collection, or whatever, but they were under his house. And those are also part of the Stoner collection there that he gave me.
Collected a lot of stuff, and when you collect a lot of things, they tell stories, and that's what the Back Porch is. It's a collection of stories, and that's 8 more pages of that thing. But I think Sandra Good's lying a lot of stuff. If you listen to Sandra Good along the way, from now on out, listen to her. She's trying to appease Manson all the time. She's the one that's creating the cult. I mean, the cult was never a cult until Sandra Good came around and made it one. You know, from all the little fiascos on the corner, sitting there all the time, worshiping Charles Manson like he's a little Jesus, to going out and Manson was the first one that was preaching. Manson was the first one that was sending out death threats about the redwood trees, actually. So it was all involved in one thing. Manson was sending threats to everybody that was involved because they were cutting down redwood trees in a certain part of Northern California. It wasn't in the redwood forest, but it was a certain part of California where they were cutting down redwood trees. Manson got upset, started sending the people who were cutting them down threats, telling them that, hey, he was going to exterminate them. And they went back to the prison and said, hey, Manson's sending threats. He's scaring us. And they're like, well, there's nothing we can do about it. And I think the girls thought, wow, there's nothing they can do about it. So they started doing the same thing. And then they got caught up in it. They got arrested. And that was the most, if you watch them, that's the happiest times of their life when they got arrested. They are so happy. I mean, Lynette Fromey comes running into that room after she's arrested, and she can't wait to talk to people. These people were born for this, man. So that's what it's all about. It's about everything. There's all kinds of stories in this. Everybody wants to listen to Bugliosi's story and think it's one story. That's one story. And then George Stimson, he's got another story, but remember, George Stimson, he lives with the broad who probably talked the rest of the people into going out and, murdering. It was probably just as much her idea as it was Charles Manson. And this whole time she's parading around like, oh yeah, we don't know nothing about that. And Charlie's innocent. We know he's innocent because we were the ones that came up with the idea. This whole thing's a joke to me, actually. And I just collect it. I like collecting it. So until next time, we come back to collect more crap. If you want to collect some crap, you can always go to charlesmanson.com. There's a plug. I hate doing that. I really hate doing that. But it's the only way that you know where it is that I make stuff, I make stuff out of this crap. I enjoy making it. If it sits there, I don't care. I enjoyed making it. I enjoyed collecting it. I enjoyed talking about it. That's why I'm here. So, thank you for being here too. And until next time, peace. We'll be back. We'll be back fast too. Because we got to talk about this crap. We got to read all this crap. Because now that you know kind of how I feel about it, like these people were the ones that came up with the idea to, let's go get Bobby out of jail and let's go. We need to find out why they wanted that woman dead then. We need to find out a lot of other things. Another thing about these women, if you look, the more that we read, you can see plain sight that their mothers were changing. Their mothers were moving into a new time. They were now working in the workforce, and these chicks wanted to stay behind. And then Bugliosi's story is making it sound like these people were the ones that were moving forward, like they're having orgies and all. No, wait. It was the other people that were, confusion, Helter Skelter. Peace out. We'll see you later.